My father is marrying me off to a vampire. My family thinks I'm a useless weakling who won't survive the wedding night. They don't know the truth about who I really am. Do you, Prince Gabriel, accept Evie, former member of the House of Ylvia and the daughter of the Guardian of Dragons, as your wife, and the princess consort of the Royal House of Vampires of the Northern Kingdom? The priest asked the man standing in front of me. Prince Gabriel? I asked my dragon spirit, Solari, who resides within me, as in, the cold-blooded killer Prince Gabriel? I guess so. But it's written in the stars. I don't care about the stars, Solari. This is a trap. I was shaking as the reality of my situation started to sink in. I do. Prince Gabriel's deep voice rang. I felt a shiver run down my spine. Evie, former member of the House of Ylvia, do you accept Prince Gabriel of the Northern Vampire Kingdom to be your husband, thereby accepting your title as his princess consort? I didn't want to go with him. I had three choices. Stay here and be a slave and get beaten, go with the murdering vampire prince, or go rogue and have nobody. Solari whimpered. You know you want him, Evie. You need to be with him, and you know exactly why. You need to do this for your own good, for the powers promised to you by the goddess herself. I sneaked a peek at my to-be husband. He's a giant, all muscle, with a hint of a tattoo peeking out from under his shirt collar on his neck. He's very good-looking, despite his ugly reputation. Full lips under a straight long nose and haunting blue eyes. Those eyes gazed into mine, and then he smirked at me. I was captivated. Evie? The priest asked. I heard my biggest bully Marcy snicker behind me. Evie, say I do, Solari pleaded. The goddess has her special plan for us, trust me. Taking a deep breath, I looked away from Prince Gabriel and down at my shoes. I do, I whispered. Our marriage was finalized with my words. I blinked away tears as I sealed my fate. The priest stepped back. It is my great joy to pronounce you man and wife. You may kiss, that won't be necessary. Prince Gabriel cut across him. He turned to me. Come. As Gabriel took me down the hall by the wrist, I asked myself, how did I get here? Then I remembered. Earlier that morning, I woke up to the shrill voice of Marcy. Hurry up, slave. Why my stepmother decided her spoiled, stuck-up daughter would be the perfect person to help me get ready for my wedding was beyond me. I said, get up, you insolent bitch. She pulled me out of bed by my hair, threw me into my creaky chair in front of my sorry excuse for a vanity, and screamed at me to get ready. Yes, Marcy, I chirped out. She snorted in response and went back to her phone. I was nearly ready, hoping we would be each other's types. I had no idea what my future husband's type was. Or, for that matter, who my future husband was. Is that mutt ready yet? Shrieked my stepmother Layla from downstairs, followed by my father Lucius's heavy footsteps. Put on the damn dress already, he huffed outside my door. My gaze swept down to my dress. It was gorgeous. It was the only thing I had ever received from my father. His one kindness through years of abuse. My mother died giving birth to me, or at least that's what my father told everyone. But the truth was an open secret. He killed her right after I was born. He had always wanted a son, and when my mother failed to give him one, he killed her, while some others believed he did it so he could marry his mistress. He didn't kill me, though. Not out of love, but because he feared people might suspect the truth. Sometimes I wish he had. At least then, I wouldn't have been branded a curse or endured the daily torment he and my stepmother inflicted. A month after my mother's death, he married that mistress, Layla, and brought her and their daughter into our home. From that day forward, my life became a living hell. I still remember the day. I'd foolishly raided the kitchen as I had been starving, and my stepmother had caught me red-handed. That day I realized she was not a Luna of mercy, as I was made to clean, cook, and serve the family with harsh punishments if I strayed or argued or talked back. Her daughter Marcy was the same age as me and just as cruel as her mother. Her main source of enjoyment was to torment me. Once, when we were 10, I had spilled a glass of orange juice on the floor. Marcy had walked right up to me and dumped the remaining glass over her head, immediately screaming for her parents, claiming I had thrown a glass at her and then dumped the juice on her when I missed. I spent 3 days in a cell in the basement with no food or water and merciless beatings from both my father and my stepmother. I had no idea how I survived. The punishments happened less and less, but when they did happen, they were extreme. That was until I got my dragon spirit Solari. It was thanks to her that I found my voice again and my will to fight back. I was in the last room of the main floor, just finishing up mopping. Suddenly, a voice had me screaming and dropping the mop, splashing water everywhere. "Hey, who's there?" I asked nervously. I spun in a slow circle, looking for a sign of another person. "No need to be so jumpy, I won't hurt you, Evie." I realized the voice was in my head. "You're the dragon spirit, the one everyone says my mother had? Bingo. My name is Solari, and it is so nice to finally be here with you. It's really nice to meet you too." I figured I trailed off helplessly. That everyone was lying, that there is no such thing as a dragon spirit. I know it's hard to believe. You do? She sighed. "I've always been here, Evie. Your mother had me, and when she passed, she left me to you. Think of me as a blessing from her. She was a true dragon blood, one who could harness the pure power of dragons. I was just waiting for the right time to come out. I'm sorry I wasn't here to help you, but I'm here now, and you'll always have me to watch your back." I laughed, full of joy. I had a dragon spirit. Finally a friend. This was the best day of my life. I grinned so much that I didn't even mind that I had to remop the floor. That was last month, my 18th birthday. Solari told me about the strength of a true dragon blood, about how powerful my mother had been. But when I asked when I could start using my powers to control dragons, she said it would take time. There was something that needed to be done first. Something written in the stars and planned by the gods themselves. She wouldn't tell me what it was, only that when the time was right, I'd know. My reminiscing was interrupted by Marcy's high-pitched voice. "What are you smiling about?" Solari snarled in my head. I shook my head, but declined to answer. Marcy narrowed her eyes at me and stood up, moving towards me. She stood behind me with her hands on her hips, turning her head to the side. "You know, Slave, I think you could use a little color in your cheeks." She smiled wickedly. I immediately sprang up and tried to dash to the door, but she was quick. Grabbing my arm, she spun me around and landed a vicious blow to my left cheek. While I was still stunned, she repeated the action to my right cheek. Tears sprang to my eyes to accompany the stinging on my face. Solari roared in my head, momentarily deafening me while Marcy laughed. I didn't even hear the insult she threw at me. Holding my cheeks, I turned swiftly for the door, exiting the room with Marcy hot on my heels. "You'll be back, you know," she said. "I know you think this marriage is your ticket out of here, but it's not. As soon as your groom realizes who my parents are marrying him off to, he'll throw you out faster than you can blink. I'll be surprised if he even goes through with the ceremony," she hissed. Stepping in front of me, she yelled, "You will always be nothing but a slave." Marcy released me, shoving me back a few feet. Without another glance, she marched down the hall and out of sight around the corner. I leaned against the wall, taking deep breaths. Maybe she was right. Who would agree to marry someone like me, a weak human, a servant? Was this truly a marriage, or just another cruel game crafted by my father and my stepmother? She's wrong. Don't listen to her, Evie. My dragon spirit tried to soothe me. She's right, though. I've always been a slave. Who could possibly want me? Look at me. You're stronger than you realize. You've been through so much, and you're still here, still standing. Even if this guy throws you out, we won't come back here. I blinked. You'd go rogue? The very word sent a chill through me. A rogue princesses, marauding families of cast-outs, of the truly wild. They answered to no house, no noble or king, followed no law but their own. Unbound, unpredictable, feared. It was rumored that they were capable of anything, and loyal to no one. I told you, Solari said. I'd always be here with you, even if we had to be a rogue. Tears welled up again, but this time from happiness. Wow, thank you. I love you, Solari. I love you too, Evie. Now let's go get married. She cheered with mock enthusiasm. I laughed quietly. Straightening my dress and my hair, I began walking down the hallway. With each step, nerves began to pool in my stomach. See, the craziest thing about my situation was that I actually didn't know who I was marrying. This whole thing was arranged without my knowledge, at least up until last week. I'd been a server at the yearly council meeting, which was at Ilvia House this year. The next day, my father and my stepmother dragged me into my father's chamber and told me I was getting married. They never said to whom, and they never gave me the option to say no. All they said was they were getting more for my hand in marriage than I was worth, and they were glad to be finally getting rid of me. Was that really the truth? Had my father, the guardian of dragons, Lucius Ilvia, offered me up like chattel just to cast me off? Or was there something more Something darker lurking behind his eagerness? Whatever happened behind the doors of that meeting, I would never know. But I feared the answer. I couldn't say I was unhappy about the prospect of leaving this family, but I was scared of marrying an unknown man. I couldn't fathom why anyone would want me to be honest. I assumed it was someone from an ally family who wanted a slave. The more I thought about this, the more I believed it was true. After all, my father could pick any random girl to replace me. Lost in my fears, I finally reached the grand double doors to the hall where the ceremony was taking place. Voices buzzed from inside. I felt like vomiting, but also something else. My head began to swim, and I was suddenly too hot. My heart rate was picking up quickly, and I felt lightheaded. Was I about to pass out minutes before my wedding? As I took deep breaths as being coached by my dragon spirit, my father snuck up beside me. I had been so focused on my breathing I hadn't even heard him. I flinched. "Stop fidgeting," he hissed. "What are you doing?" I asked. I felt so out of sorts I didn't even stop to consider my words or the disrespectful tone in which I said them. He narrowed his eyes on me. The hand at his side twitched like he wanted to strike me. "Since by some twist of bad luck I'm your father, it is my duty to walk you down the aisle and give you away. Trust me, I wish I could avoid it, but there seems to be no other way. Don't misinterpret this though. I take absolutely no pleasure in being anywhere near you or touching you." What? Why did it sound like he was insinuating something? You mean you take no pleasure in touching me when it's not violent? I deadpanned. Solari, who had been pacing in my head, stopped in her tracks. I could feel the shock coming from her. I was shocked too. I'd never spoken to my father like that before with such confidence. Where had that come from? My father seemed more shocked than either of us. However, his face was comical. At least it was until his eyes turned black and a low voice came through his teeth. "You think that was bad? Your fate is about to become far worse." Before I had time to process his words or the rising panic they instilled within me, the doors in front of us began to open. He turned me towards the hall. I had no maid of honor, no bridesmaids. Not that anyone would have agreed if I had asked. As we entered the hall, I was hit in the face with the most amazing scent. It was a mix of forest and dark chocolate with a hint of an almost musky, woodsy smell. It almost knocked me off my feet. It filled the hall, and I found myself looking around, searching for the source. Solari was practically jumping in my head, wanting to come out. "He's here, the one written in the stars for you. He's here!" She screamed. "What? Who's here?" Where, I asked. I saw him then. My eyes zeroed in on the most amazingly breathtaking man I'd ever witnessed. He was taller than my father, at least 6'7", a giant, and all muscle. His tuxedo strained against him in a way that had me coveted. I could see the hint of a tattoo peeking out front under the shirt collar on his. I was less than 5 feet away now, near enough to see his hair had a slight wave to it, and it was pitch black. My fingers itched to run through it. He had a chiseled jaw with a 5 o'clock shadow, full mouth under a straight long nose, and his eyes. They gazed into mine and held me captive. They were a haunting blue. I had forgotten where I was, the reason, the time, the place. "This is one you were talking about? The one written in the stars for me?" I asked Solari. I couldn't quite believe my eyes. Yes, I could feel the excitement in my dragon spirit's voice. She was going crazy with joy and happiness. A loud throat clearing sounded next to me, and I unwillingly cast my gaze away from my fated man in annoyance. My father was glaring at me. It was only then that I'd realized we'd come to a stop. The entire hall was buzzing with hushed whispers, everyone staring at me. I blushed slightly and looked down. Lord Yulvia. His voice was deep, husky. It sent a shiver down my spine. "I'll take her from here." My head shot up. Wait, I was marrying him? My fated mate? Who do you think? He's the only one up here other than the old guy, snarked Solari. Truthfully, I hadn't even noticed anyone else, but she was right. Only the priest who was blessing the marriage stood at the altar. I glanced around him. Didn't he have groomsmen? Friends? Family? What are you waiting for? "Go," hissed my father. He released a not too subtle shove. A growl erupted from my to-be husband's chest at the action, and I peeked up in time to see my father's face go pale. He bowed his head in apology and went to take his seat next to his Luna. In all my years with the family, I had never seen my father cower before anyone. Whoever this man was, he wasn't just powerful, he was feared. and perhaps crazy too. Why else would he agree to marry me? A lowly servant with no status or standing worth trading. I spotted Marcy seated next to her mother, but I didn't understand her expression. Truthfully, the second I realized whom I was marrying, I could only imagine how jealous Marcy would be. I mean, this man was a god. But she looked smug. She had a wicked little smile on her face, laughter in her eyes. Why? What did Marcy know about this man that I did not? Her expression had anxiety pooling in my stomach. Ahem. I turned my attention back to the man in front of me. He was glaring at me now, annoyance clear on his face. "I'd like to get started if you're willing to pay attention now," he grumbled. Without waiting for an answer, he signaled to the priest to begin the ceremony. "Ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor to be here at the House of Ylvia today to bless the union of these two children. Shall we?" He looked at my man. He nodded once. The priest looked at me with a soft smile, which I returned. "Do you, Evie?" He stumbled for a second and I blushed a deep red. Traditionally, he would use my full name, but he knew I hated my family name after all the torture I had to endure. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw my to-be husband raise his eyebrows in confusion. The priest cleared his throat and started again. "Do you, Evie of the House of Ylvia, accept this marriage and my blessing of it?" "I do," I replied quietly. "And do you acknowledge and accept that henceforth you will no longer be a member of the House of Ylvia?" "Yes," I replied a little more eagerly. "Then as a priest of the sitting council, I hereby strip you of any ties to the House of Ylvia. Lord Lucius Ylvia?" The priest gestured to my father, who stood up. "I accept," he said. I felt a tearing inside. Everyone in the hall sighed. The priest and my groom gasped and clutched themselves along with me. Losing a family member was painful for everyone, but I took the pain with a smile, knowing I was officially no longer a member of this horrid family. I felt an intense wave of freedom, not to be tied to them anymore, even though I was totally unaware of how my life will be in my new family, or why my father had suddenly agreed to let me go. When everyone was quiet again, the priest turned to my groom. "Do you, Prince Gabriel, accept Evie, former member of the House of Ylvia, as your wife and therefore princess consort of the royal house of vampires of the Northern Kingdom?" My breathing hitched to a stop. "Prince Gabriel, as in the cold-blooded vampire Prince Gabriel?" I asked Solari. "I guess so, but it's written in the stars." "I don't care about the stars, Solari. I can't accept this. He's a bad guy. He's a vampire." Suddenly Marcy's smirk made sense. I was shaking as the reality of my situation started to sink in. They were marrying me off to someone who wasn't even human. To a vampire. The ones who hunted humans. And to make matters worse, Solari said he is the one planned by the gods for me. What kind of sick sense of humor did the gods have? I hadn't suffered enough. The gods thought they'd toss me to the merciless vampire prince? I do. With those words, Prince Gabriel sealed my fate. I ground my teeth together and kept my eyes downcast, avoiding eye contact with Prince Gabriel. "Evie, former member of the House of Ylvia, do you accept Prince Gabriel of the Northern Vampire Kingdom to be your husband, thereby accepting your title as his princess consort?" I didn't want to go with him. These were my options then? Stay here and be a slave and get beaten, go with the ruthless vampire prince who everyone feared, or go rogue and have nobody. Tears welled in my eyes at my situation. "Please don't reject him." Solari whimpered. "Solari, we can't accept him. I know." She cut me off. "But you need to remember that this is planned by the gods themselves, and this marriage is the only way to unlock your true powers," she snapped. Closing my eyes, I sighed quietly. So this is what's needed to unlock my powers. When I opened them, I looked into my prince's eyes. He was staring at me with such anger, I actually took a step back. It didn't make sense. Why was he looking at me like that? Why marry me at all if all he felt was anger? "Please," whispered Solari. "Evie?" The priest stepped forward. I heard a snicker I'd known anywhere behind me. Now I know why Marcy was so smug earlier. Taking a deep breath, I looked away from Prince Gabriel and down at my shoes. "I do," I whispered. Our marriage was finalized with my words. I blinked away unshed tears as I sealed my fate. The priest stepped back, giving me a short look of something near to sympathy. "It is my great joy to pronounce you man and wife. You may kiss—" "That won't be necessary." Prince Gabriel cut across him. He turned to me. "Come." Dragging my feet, I turned to follow my new husband. Prince Gabriel strode down the platform, stopping briefly to shake my father's hand. They exchanged no words, but it felt disrespectful to me, like a good doing business with you vibe. I wondered for the first time how much he had offered for me. It couldn't have been very much, as I was nothing but a lowly slave for the family. More than likely, they were probably just glad to be rid of me. Why did Prince Gabriel agree to marry me? What's his motive? He hadn't even kissed me. How could he want me? And what I feared most to ask, what exactly did he want me for? Keeping my eyes down and my feet shuffling forward, I felt bad for whoever they replaced me with in the future. A deep sigh interrupted my thoughts, and I glanced up to see my husband's annoyed face. "Can you move any faster? I'd like to get home sometime today if that's okay with you," he snapped. "Sorry," I mumbled. He rolled his eyes. "Your things are packed and already loaded in the carriage. Let's go." He reached for my arm, and I instinctively flinched back. It wasn't entirely his fault. I'd been beaten since the age of 5. Fast movements tended to cause me to react like that. Whether he knew of how I was treated here or not, though, he stopped reaching for me and dropped his hand to his side. Should I change first?" I asked him. "Why?" I blinked at him. "Am I supposed to show up to your family in a wedding dress? Why does it matter?" It didn't really. I was stalling, not wanting to be in a near-personal space like a carriage with him. "Look, I've come and got what I needed here. Now I'm going home. If you're not in the carriage in 2 minutes, you can walk to the Northern Kingdom." With that, he turned and walked away from me. Wow, he's a real charmer. I know he's a bit rough around the edges, but I'm sure he is really nice at heart, mumbled Solari in my head. That's supposed to make me feel better. Heart? He isn't even a human. Does he even have a heart? Yes. My turn to roll my eyes. Dutifully, I followed my husband out of the family house to a waiting carriage. He was already seated inside, tapping his fingers impatiently on the velvet seat. I climbed in somewhat awkwardly, thanks to the skirt of my dress, and shut my door. Glancing in the back of the carriage, I saw a single suitcase. That would be my thing, as sad as that was. Adjusting to the luxurious seat, I stared out the window. We weren't moving. 2 minutes passed, then 3. And 5 minutes later, we were still standing in front of my family house. I broke the silence. "Aren't we leaving?" I asked him. "Yes, as soon as these idiots get the rest of your stuff." I looked at him quizzically. "What?" He jabbed a thumb over his shoulder, indicating my suitcase. I actually laughed. "That is the rest of my stuff." Now it was his turn to look confused. "That is all you have?" "Yeah," I replied. "Where are the rest of your clothes?" "They're in there. I don't have much." I shrugged. "Much? You don't have anything." He barked. I shrugged again. He continued to look at me with an undecipherable expression before his expression hardened again. "Whatever," he grumbled. Finally, he asked the coachman to start driving the carriage. Leaning back in my seat, I started out at the houses passing us by, giving way to more and more trees until we left the Ilvia territory behind completely. Turning onto the forest road, I let out a breath I didn't know I'd been holding. I can't believe it, I know. We're actually out of the Ilvia territory. We don't ever have to go back, Evie. We're free. Solari whooped in my head. Free. Somehow this didn't feel like freedom. I'd gone from being a slave to a queen in less than a day to a vampire who might actually murder me as he'd done so many others. Even as a slave, I'd heard all the stories of Prince Gabriel. He was feared near and far for his ability to murder. He'd wiped out entire houses and kingdoms. He had no mercy, no heart. He was actually known as the Heartless Vampire Prince, and here I was sitting in a carriage with him, accompanying him to his family as his wife and princess consort. Or maybe he had different plans for me entirely. It felt surreal. Should I speak to him? Try to make conversation? I floundered around in my head, searching for something to ask him that didn't involve his murder streak, or how many people he had decapitated. Hours passed. It was dark outside now, the trees a dark blur as we sped past. Suddenly, it popped into my head, and out of my mouth before I could stop it. "Why didn't you kiss me?" I blurted out. Prince Gabriel glanced at me, and then back to the road. Silence. "Prince?" I tried again. Nothing. I'd been so caught up in the shock before, I hadn't even minded that he didn't kiss me. But now, as my reality began to really set in, it seemed important to know why. If he hadn't married me for love, then what had he married me for? Why did this matter so much to me anyway? He was a cold-blooded murderer. I shouldn't even be thinking about kissing him. Naive and foolish me. However, it seemed my mouth was not connected to my brain as I whispered, "I'm your wife." "Enough!" he snapped loudly. I flinched away from him, hurt. I didn't speak a single word for the rest of the trip. My gaze traveled between the window and my shoes. I refused to look at him. An hour ago, he'd told me we'd crossed into his land. I'd simply nodded. Was I being disrespectful? Probably. But he wasn't chatting me up either way, so I didn't care. We're here. The carriage pulled up to a huge 10-foot gate that looked to be made of iron. 2 guards were stationed on our side, and 2 more just beyond. All 4 men were huge, but nowhere near to their prince. The nearest guard gave a signal, and the gate swung open. Despite my qualms about this situation, I was impressed as we went further towards the family house. Most of the area was covered in trees, but I could spot houses in the dense forestry. Here and there, quaint cottages were dotted around with cute balconies and porch swings, gardens and stone walk paths. I even spotted a few garden gnomes, painted grins frozen in place, peeking out from manicured lawns. It was perfect. Almost too perfect, like the whole town had been manufactured. 15 minutes later, the carriage pulled up to what could only be the family house. The driveway was a big semicircle of stone bricks. Carriages were parked in a line along the edge, all grand and ornate. I took a moment to take it all in, and despite everything, I was awestruck. The family house loomed before us, massive and commanding, at least 5 stories tall and just as wide. It wasn't just big. It was fortress-like, a place built to protect, or imprison. "Are you going to sit there and stare all night? I'm tired," grumbled my husband. I shook my head, speedily opening my door and stepping out. I hadn't moved much over the course of the long car ride, and my legs were super stiff. I took a second to stretch them while still admiring the house. Upon closer inspection, I noticed the whole place was constructed of deep redwood. I bet it looked even better in the daylight. Evie. It took me a minute for him to catch my attention. Nobody used my name. I'd always been called slave or mutt or other various derogatory terms. "Yes, I'm coming. Just let me get my stoop. Don't bother. But I'll get you some new clothes tomorrow. You can throw that suitcase out and everything in it." He began to walk to the house, but stopped when I opened the back door of the carriage. He sighed loudly, clearly irritated. Opening the suitcase, I dug through the clothes that had been packed. Really, they were just rags until I found my objective. Closing the door, I clutched my locket. It was a gift from my mother, given the day I was born. Some said it carried her blessings, others whispered that it held all her powers, locked away until the time was right for me to claim them. I placed it around my neck and joined him. "What's that?" he asked. "It's a locket." He raised an eyebrow. It's the only thing I have that's really mine. It was a gift from my mother. I've had it since the day I was born, so I trailed off. I couldn't remember her face, but sometimes I swore I could hear a voice, soft, warm, distant. It echoed through my mind like a memory just out of reach. "This, my girl, is the key to your past, and way to claim your future." Gabriel feigned no interest. "Okay." He turned on his heel and I followed him, mentally rolling my eyes. He really was bad. He didn't hold the door for me, which I expected. Glancing around as I followed him through the door, I was again awestruck by how big this place was. Paintings decorated the walls that I'd have to inspect nearer later. The floor was carpeted a deep purple, contrasting nicely with the wooden interior. Antique-looking furniture was placed vicariously along the walls, this way. This floor has the common room, the kitchen, game area, and a room we use for meetings. It also has a dining room for meals. The second floor belongs to my trusted guards and their families. The third floor is for my general and his family. The fourth floor is for us, and the fifth floor is the library. That was the most he'd said to me since we'd met. "Wait, us? Us?" I squeaked. He stopped on the stairs and looked down at me. As if he wasn't tall enough, this was even more intimidating. "Yes, us. You are my wife and princess consort of this kingdom. Of course you will stay with me. What else did you think?" Before I could say anything else, he trotted up the stairs, me scrambling to keep up. I was feeling lightheaded and gasping for breath by the time we reached our floor. Years of being starved for long periods of time will do that to you, I guess. I shuffled down the hall, nearly running into the back of him when he stopped abruptly in front of a door. "This is our room." He pointed to a door in front of us. "The maids must have placed some clothes for you. They will bring more tomorrow." Without another word, he opened the door and stepped inside. Numbly and lost, I followed him inside the room. I don't know why I expected it to be small. Old habits, I guess. It was huge. The floor was plush, soft gray carpet. A king-size bed was set against the wall, begging for a good night's sleep. Across from the bed was an old-fashioned fireplace already lit and filling the room with warmth and a soft glow. A neatly stacked pile of wood was placed to its side. White curtains were drawn across glass doors that looked to open to a balcony. I assumed the door to my right was a bathroom, and the double wooden doors led to a wardrobe. Again, not what I had imagined. But then we didn't imagine we'd have our own room, did we? Solari grumbled. "No, but it's better than sleeping with him, right?" Gavriel's gaze locked firmly on mine. "You can rest. I have important work to attend to, but I'll be back soon." My throat felt dry, but I managed to nod. "All right." He lingered for a second too long, his eyes scanning me as though he could see straight through to my thoughts. Without another word, he finally turned and walked out. The heavy door clicked shut behind him. I released a long, shaky breath. Finally. His presence still seemed to cling to the air, thick and suffocating as though he had never truly left. My shoulders loosened for the first time since the ceremony. He's gone, at least for now. I tugged at the wedding dress, fumbling with the stubborn laces until it crumpled in a heap at my feet. "Off! Get it off! I can breathe again!" Snatching the nearest towel, I wrapped it tightly around myself and hurried straight into the bathroom. The moment I stepped inside, I froze. My eyes widened. Holy. Wow. This wasn't a bathroom. It was a temple. The air was warm and faintly perfumed, and at the center stood a massive tub carved from deep green marble streaked with veins of gold. Bronze fixtures gleamed under the candlelight, while curls of steam rose lazily into the air. I've never seen anything like this, not even in my father's house. I sank into the hot water, letting it swallow me whole. For a brief few moments, I allowed myself to melt into the heat. The tension in my body slowly began to unwind, though my thoughts refused to quiet. What does he want from me? And why won't my heart stop racing every time he's near? When I finally stepped out of the bath, my skin was flushed and my hair clung damp against my shoulders. I wore one of the dresses the maids had brought and moved back into the room. As soon as I stepped into the room, an intoxicating scent of forest and dark chocolate filled my senses. My dragon spirit Solari stirred restlessly in my mind, practically vibrating with excitement. "Shit, he is here!" Solari said, her voice echoing through my consciousness with an intensity that made my eyes fly open. The room was bathed in the amber glow of the fireplace. Shadows danced across the plush gray carpet, but what caught my breath wasn't the luxurious surroundings, it was the figure sitting in the armchair beside my bed. Gavriel, my husband. The prince who had barely spoken 2 words to me since our wedding. He leaned forward, elbows resting on his knees, those haunting blue eyes fixated on mine. His dark hair was slightly disheveled, as if he'd been running his hands through it, and his white dress shirt was unbuttoned at the collar, revealing more of that tantalizing tattoo I'd glimpsed during our ceremony. "You're back," he said, his deep voice sending shivers down my spine. I stopped in my tracks, acutely aware that I was in just a thin nightdress. "How long have you been sitting there?" "Long enough." His gaze traveled over me, and I felt heat bloom in my cheeks. "I was waiting for you." He trailed off, jaw clenching as if he was fighting some internal battle. The air between us was thick with pheromones, making it hard to think clearly. Solari practically panted in my head, desperate to force me to go closer to him. But something in Gavriel's expression held me back. He walked up to me, and without any warning, his hands moved to the neckline of my wedding dress. The sound of fabric tearing filled the room as he ripped the delicate material, exposing my bruised shoulders and collarbone. I gasped and scrambled backward, my heart hammering against my ribs. "What are you doing?" I cried, clutching the torn fabric to my chest. But his eyes weren't filled with lust or violence. His gaze traced the purple and black marks marring my pale skin. "I need to examine you," he said suddenly, his voice rough. My heart skipped a beat, heat pooling low in my stomach at his words. "Examine me?" He stood abruptly, towering over me even more than usual. "Not what you're thinking," he said, though his eyes darkened as they met mine. "I need to see what they did to you." The romantic haze cleared instantly. What? I can smell it on you. The pain. His hands clenched into fists at his sides. I need to see how badly they hurt you. Fear crept up my spine, not of him, but of what he might discover. Gabriel, I don't think... It's not a request, Evie. His voice came through, commanding and absolute. But there was something else beneath it. Something that sounded almost protective. My dragon spirit whimpered, torn between submission to my prince and the shame of revealing my scars. I nodded slowly, not trusting my voice. Are you thinking what I'm thinking? Barked Solari. Shut up, I shouted in my mind. Come here, Gabriel commanded. I approached slowly, bare feet silent on the carpet. When I was close enough to feel the heat radiating from his body, he finally looked at me. Turn around. I obeyed, my hands trembling as I faced away from him. I felt him move closer, his body heat radiating onto my back. For a long moment, there was only silence. Then I felt the softest touch against my shoulder blade. His fingertips touched one of the scars on my back. Who did this to you? His voice was deadly quiet. It doesn't matter now, I whispered. It matters to me. His touch moved to another scar, this one deeper, more jagged. Tell me their name. I shivered, not from cold, but from the raw possessiveness in his voice. My father. But Gabriel, please don't. He tortured you. It wasn't a question. His fingers continued their exploration, mapping the damage done to my body with a gentleness that brought tears to my eyes. I survived, I said simply. He was quiet for so long, I thought he wouldn't respond. Then, slowly, he led me to the bed. Lie down, he said, on your stomach. I obeyed, my pulse racing as I settled onto the bed. I felt him sit beside me, the mattress dipping under his weight. I'm going to remove this, he said, his hands at the tie of my robe. I need to see your back fully. The silk slipped away, leaving me exposed beneath his gaze. I buried my face in the pillow, shame burning through me. Good goddess, he said under his breath. He ran his finger over a particularly deep scar. Gabriel's voice was low but firm as he said, I can't believe your family did this to you, but never again. You're here with me now and you're safe. No one will ever hurt you again. My chest tightened. Why does that sound like a promise I actually want to believe? His words wrapped around me like a warm blanket I had never asked for but suddenly needed. My heart, damn it, actually melted a little. He stood and set a box gently in front of me. I blinked at it. What's this? A gift, he replied simply. I lifted the lid, and my jaw dropped. Oh, my... Inside was a red dress, deep crimson and as rich as spilled wine in candlelight. The fabric shimmered when it caught the light. It was the sort of gown queens might wear to break hearts and start wars. Solari's voice erupted in my head. Put it on! Put it on right now! Evie, do you see this? This is love! This is your fate! Gabriel's mouth curved into the faintest smirk. Get dressed, quickly. I looked up at him. For what? The Emperor has invited you to a ball. My stomach dropped. The Vampire Emperor? Yes, but don't worry, I'll be there. His tone carried a hint of care. He turned toward the door. Maids. They appeared instantly, bowing low. Help her get ready, Gabriel commanded. His gaze flicked back to me. I'll be waiting downstairs. The moment he left, the maids swept in and helped me get ready. When they finally stepped back, I turned toward the mirror and froze. My breath caught. That's not me. The woman staring back had flawless skin, hair gleaming under the light, and lips painted a deep red to match the gown. Solari purred in my mind. That's what a princess is supposed to look like. And you, Evie, you're the most beautiful princess of them all. I stepped out of the room, still smiling, still riding the giddy rush from seeing myself in the mirror. My heels clicked against the polished floor as I headed toward the stairs. Then I froze. A man stood in front of me, my breath caught. He was handsome, just as handsome as Gabriel, though in a different way. His features were sharper, and his eyes looked like they could cut straight through me. Good evening, my lady, I'm Caius, Gabriel's brother. I hesitated, thrown off by his sudden appearance, but I kept my composure. It's a pleasure to meet you, Prince Caius. My name is... Evelyn, he said, finishing it for me with a glint in his eyes. He stepped closer to me. I hope Gabriel is treating you well, he said quietly. I stiffened at the question. He's been gentle to me, I replied carefully. Caius's expression shifted, his smile fading, replaced by something more serious. I see. but it seems you still know very little about your husband. I frowned. What do you mean? He may seem calm, even soft-spoken, but if something inside him ever breaks, he can be dangerous, even to you. My breath caught. A chill crept down my spine. Then he added, "You have no idea why he married you, or why he really brought you here, do you?" The words hit hard. Before I could ask him anything, he was already walking away, calling over his shoulder, "Think about it, Evelyn." My pulse quickened. "What does he know, Solari?" I called out in my mind. Her voice was uncertain and uneasy. I don't know. I don't have the answer, Evie." That scared me more than Caius's warning. Solari was never without an answer. By the time I blinked and refocused, Caius had already disappeared. I made my way down the stairs, my mind replaying his words again and again. Why did Gabrielle bring me here? What am I missing? Then I saw him, and all other thoughts vanished instantly. Prince Gabriel stood at the base of the stairs, his posture regal and his presence impossible to ignore. He was dressed in a deep black doublet trimmed in silver, with intricate embroidery curling over the chest and sleeves. He smiled at me, a slow, devastating smile that made my breath catch and my mind go completely blank. It was the kind of smile that could make you forget everything. He said nothing, just extended his hand. I placed mine in his, and together we walked into the ballroom as husband and wife. The room was breathtaking. Towering chandeliers bathed the space in golden light, and the black marble floors gleamed beneath our feet. The walls were lined with ancient crests and flickering candlelight. Every vampire in the room turned to look. And from the crowd, a stunning vampire woman stepped forward, moving confidently toward Gabrielle. She was beautiful, tall, curves wrapped in an elegant gown that sparkled like wine in a firelight. Her hair fell in waves, her smile sharp. "Will you join me on the dance floor?" the woman said, offering her hand to Gabrielle. Then, as if suddenly remembering I existed, she glanced at me. "So, this is the human you married?" Gabrielle's arm stiffened. I blinked. "Who is she?" The women didn't wait for Gabrielle to answer. She looked at me up and down, clearly unimpressed. "I'm Thea, Gabrielle's fiancée." My world tilted violently as Thea's word fiancé echoed like a knife in my ears. Why didn't he reveal his fiancé to Evie earlier? If he already had a fiancé, why did Gabriel marry Evie? What are his intentions? Is Thea a threat to Evie? What does this mean for Evie and Gabriel's marriage? To find out what happens next, listen to the story, The Vampire Prince, exclusively on the Pocket FM app. Download now.